What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Scratch Agency podcast, hosted by Scratch Agents for Scratch Agents. My name is Stephen Turnbull, founder of T5 Insurance Services in Clinton, New York, and I'm joined by my co-host today, the one and only, you already know, hold your applause, Mr. Sean Fitzgerald, founder of Sound Harbor Insurance in beautiful Long Island, New York. Is it snowing down there yet, Sean?
Not yet. We're in the 50s. Probably give us another month.
We got a snow warning coming for Friday.
You're
Halloween night.
You're in Claim Central up there. Downstate be getting a bad rap. But
yeah, come on, frozen pipes, load on the roof. We got it all up here. No problem. We'll take care of everything. We got Aaron Farmer on the show today. We were chopping it up a little bit before we started, and I said, Aaron, we got to stop and we got to hit the record button. We got a lot going on that we want to dive into. Fellow Scratch agent. He talks our language. That's why I wanted to have him on today. Aaron, first off, just thank you very much for taking the time to join us. We really appreciate it. How are you today?
I'm doing great, guys. Thank you so much. Really excited to be on the show today.
Absolutely. So take us through the journey. We were just getting into it, and I had to stop us before we hit the record button. But talk to us about your journey of what led you up to where you are today, and then we'll hit the topics we want to talk about.
Okay, let's do it. First, I was going to tell you said snow. We have a heat advisory in San Diego today. It's going to be 95.
Oh, God. I sound like I'm talking to Taylor Garcia in Arizona. He's like, I don't know what you mean by snow. He's like, oh, it's so hot here. I feel so bad.
It's not supposed to be hot here, but yeah, today we have a freaking heat advisory. So it's going to snow there and heat here. Yeah, so my journey is, I think, an interesting path, but hopefully I can bring some value to the people on your show, because I listen to your show all the time. And that is, I was a Scratch farmer's agent in 1996. I started with nothing, just a dream. I actually worked for I worked for an accounting firm that did business valuation. We were working a case for a family who was getting divorced, and the owner, they had a insurance brokerage. I knew nothing about it. I had to learn how to create a value for it. But the one thing that I took away from it was like, wow, this person, they made good money. They had time for their family and their kids. And I thought, okay, that was it. Once I saw that, that's what I wanted to do. And reached back out to someone I knew in San Diego who I'd met, who was a district manager. And if you know anything about captives, once you contact them for a job, you're in. And but anyway, when I did, I didn't have car insurance. I literally didn't have car insurance. There was a LIMRA test, something about life insurance. Didn't know a thing about it. They gave me the answers, and then when I started, got licensed, I said, okay, where are you putting me? Let's go. And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, I must get a book. And they said, no, here's a desk, here's a pencil and a phone book. It was called X Dating. I think people still do it today. Got my girlfriend to help me do it 4 nights a week. It was a grind, or the hustle. But that was the start of my career.
That's awesome.
In fact, my first paycheck was a bill, because you have to pay for your letterhead, right?
Yeah. So you did that, and then how did you get into the world of flood insurance? How did that all come about?
Yeah. So about 2012, we had written, again, I'm doing standard lines, right?
Yeah.
Farmers, you need home, auto, life, like everyone's doing. And so we wrote a small motel, and then when it finished, the guy said, hey, you didn't do my flood insurance. And I was like, oh yeah, no problem. So give me the deck page. We did it. And he said, oh, no, that's way too expensive. And I said, well, wait a second. It's all the same. It has to be the same. So I was worried that maybe someone misrated his product or his flood policy. And as it turned out, I'd never seen anything like it. He sent me a deck page, and it wasn't an NFIP. And that was my first foray into private insurance. And of course, like every good new agent, I saw the name on the deck page. I called them and said, hey, how about an appointment? And they said, well, how much flood insurance do you have? I'm like, none. Call us back when you got some business,
Yeah.
That was sort of the start of it. I think at that time, California, which is still a challenge for homeowners even today, I used the flood as really to get the home and auto. So at that time, private was in California was half of what the NFIP was, and so my goal was to bundle the home and the flood with a total premium that was better than
Sure.
the independent or State Farm. So that's how we started. We got into pay-per-click. I just listened to your podcast on congratulations. Sounds like you're
Thanks.
Jumping into the pay-per-clicks play, and we did
Can't
that.
you see, Aaron, can't you see all the leads floating over his head right now as he's sitting on the call waiting?
Oh, I'm inspired, man. I was listening to that this morning on the way to work, and he got me excited. So yeah, we did that, and it was good when it was $2 a click, and today it's like 13, and it's very challenging on flood to make money. Maybe not homeowners, but that's how we got into it. About a few years after that, like a lot of agents today, you say, okay, I'm sending this to the MGA. What do they really do for me? All they're really doing is send me a quote. And I think we kind of felt that way a little bit. Now I have a different perspective being on the other side. But we contacted Lloyd's. It was a whole 2-year process. They told me no. And then I said, okay, it's on. And we eventually got tribunalized, which is a fancy word for saying they let me in the club.
So, yeah.
Can you break down... just Sean, real quick, because I think we skimmed over a lot. Can you just break down the kind of the timeline for listeners so they can get an idea about our further conversation of your pivot from the retail agent side of things to the MGA and kind of how that looked like, just so we have a clear picture?
Yeah. So I was licensed in 1996, and it was about 2013 that I got in there. So you're talking, a good 15 years of being a good soldier with farmers who, I look back and I made the switch to the independent side, but I look back fondly. I learned a lot. There's a lot of great training. And I think for agents today, if there's a lot of talk about there's the riches or in the niches or niches, whatever it is, but they're both the same. It makes sense in that you got to be an expert at something. I certainly wouldn't sit here today and tell everyone to just find one thing and forget everything else. I think the benefit is if you can do home and auto and life, and maybe you get a staff person, that can help pay the bills, right? That can give you some income, because you could get into a niche of general contractors, and then when the market turns, you don't have a business anymore. And that could go for any line of business, really. Yeah.
Well, can we talk about that for a minute? I'm glad you brought that up, because I think too, people talk about niches a lot, and it's if you're a scratch agent starting out, like you said, you got bills, you got to get revenue in the books, right? But I think the underestimated thing about that conversation is the experiences of getting to that point, writing the home, auto, life, flood, all of that, and then realizing, man, I enjoy writing flood. I enjoy this. We're good at it. Maybe I can stop focusing on this other stuff to focus on this, but you have that base. I think there's power in the discovery phase, if you will, of that process.
Yeah, there's no question. I think another part of it is, for me, it was like I was tired of getting kicked in the teeth every day, right? And I still, I follow various podcasts, yours as an example, where you talk a lot of young agents, and I mean, it's a grind, right? It's a grind. And the whole question is there a pot of gold on the other side of that rainbow? And there is.
You promise?
I just listened to Mr. Kilgo you had on your program, and he was talking about leadership and, being the number one producer. And you have to have a fire in your belly. If you hire someone today and they don't have a fire, you cannot put a fire in their gut. You just can't. And if you're an agent and you have that fire, you can be successful. But getting back to what you said, which was, kind of finding out what you like and what you don't. Certainly you can find a product or two that a lot of times you just fall into it. Maybe you have a neighbor who has something, and next thing you know, you get interested in it, and then they refer you to someone. Next thing you know, you got 10 policies in the same class, and the light bulb goes off. I never thought about, I got tired of hearing agents and talking heads in our industry saying, the riches are in the niches. And you're like, what does that mean? And what niche do I like? I don't even know. And then all of a sudden it was like, holy shit, we're in one. And I never even really thought of it that way until we had a significant amount of premium.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of power in, to your point, is like just recently, like we went all in on high value homeowners in New York specifically, high value coastal homeowners in New York. I still do home, umbrella, life, business, contractors, restaurants. Like I still do all that other stuff, but I feel like there's a lot of power in, like you said, you're leading with flood, right? And that makes you think a little bit differently because now all your efforts as far as like how you do your marketing, how you do your paid ads, if you do that, how you ask for referrals, the lead collection process, it's all more refined because now you have like a singular focus.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I wouldn't say, I agree with you. I think the riches and the niches is misleading because people think, oh, you're basically not going to do anything else and you're just going to do general contractors all day, every day. You know?
Well, I think if you, again, it could be any line, but like you said, Sean, when you find that focus is going to be, if it's, let's say high value homeowners,
Yeah.
then you're going to write a couple of them. You're going to find the real estate agents or mortgage people who deal with them. You're talking to the contractors who are building them. So you have to be the guy, the woman, the person, everyone has, I got my guy. And you need to be that, wherever that is, wherever that class of business is.
Yeah.
And from there, I think, again, I'm not that smart. I just think if you're going to go and try and compete for the auto insurance with everyone else out there, I think that's a losing game. But it's not if you're good at, you had someone from Rainbow, maybe you get into pizza restaurants and you write a couple. Well, then you're going to naturally, with the technology today, listen, the ability to scale and the ability with technology. I mean, I'm listening to your guys' podcast and I learned so much because of all the automation and, I mean, I'm not a boomer, so I'm not that old, but that allows agents today to be on a level playing field. There's a $50 million agent and a $250,000 new scratch. You're almost on the level playing field. Why? Because you can use ChatGPT to get a policy and tear it apart and understand everything they do. So you can be that expert much faster, much quicker than ever before.
Yeah.
And that lends itself again to be the person in that niche that people want to go to. And then you're going to get the other lines, like you said, right? I mean, you're going to ask for the auto, you're going to ask for the umbrella, but you're not just competing for the auto. That's a tough one.
No. Yeah,
Aaron,
you lead with the primary,
Take us behind the curtain of the realization when you said, the niche thing kept coming up and you said to yourself, hang on a second, we have one, and you didn't really realize it. If you go walk us through that, if the whole way, if you could, of the realization of that, and then what shifted internally with you and your team of like, hey, this is something we're now going to focus on. This is going to lead us. And then it shifted that mindset from that light bulb moment.
Well, I think that here's one point that when people talk about, again, I get frustrated because it's like the riches are in the niches. Okay, whatever that means. And then it's like, well, just find the pain point. Okay. And then again, when you're a new agent, like, well, everything's a pain point. But there is something there. And that is, the pain point is generally, what do your customers not understand? What do most agents not understand? Because they don't want to spend the time, because most agents don't at me, but most agents are lazy. Right? Yep. I mean, there's a lot of lazy. Let's put it that there's a lot of agents. The people that listen to these podcasts are trying to get better, and they're not. But it's so on the flood as an example. No one really understood 10 years ago the NFIP. What does it mean? Waiting periods. It was so confusing. It's still confusing. And so if you could shed some light, if you can be, again, the expert, which doesn't take that much, you can get into the niche, or you could become the person, because the pain point, again, if the pain point is wildfire in California, I'm not sure that's a good one to go after because it's challenging, but the pain point could be high value homeowners because there may be some ongoing political stuff or climate or something that's causing a problem, if you can be the one to try and solve some of that, I think that is where you sort of all of a sudden find out, hey, we're solving a problem, a pain point. Maybe it's workers' compensation in a tough class, where today there's so many models and telematics and so many things that might improve a class, might improve the safety of something, that you can actually turn the needle a little bit. Now all of a sudden it's like, whoa, we got something going here. Does that make sense?
I don't think you realize how powerful what you just said was, and I want people to rewind it and think about that. That is the classic example of don't overthink it and boil it down to what is the customer's pain points and what are you trying to solve, right? I mean, we think about this automation and how are we going to market this and all this stuff. Like, what's the pain point? What are you trying to solve? And I'm on my high horse, Sean. I can see the look in his face. Give me one more minute. Yesterday, I had a presentation. I was the presenter for our networking group, right? And I was like, I presented to this group like 15 times. Like, what am I going to do this different to get them to understand more what we're doing inside these walls and all that? And my first slide was, in quotes, what do you do at T5 Insurance? And it was big and bold. We help people. And I stayed on that slide for like 5 minutes. And I talked about, we help people that don't realize they need this. We help people that don't realize this. We fill the gaps with this. We educate on this. We do this. We help people with the things that they don't, just like you're talking about. What are the pain points for the people that are buying our product or service? It's that simple. And I mean, you're obviously giving me a huge light bulb moment right now, because you can get so caught up in how am I going to, like, Sean, look at you. You've got all these great pages that are highlighting specific pain points on high value homes in coastal areas. If I have a high value home in a coastal area, why am I not going to go to you to solve my problem? Because you've done an amazing job of saying, I can help you solve your problem.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. And with, I feel like flood is such a good one because it is notoriously misunderstood. I mean, I deal with flood policies every day. And to Aaron's point, I can't tell you how many conversations I have where they'll literally say to me, oh, flood, it's the same no matter where you go. And I'm like, well, that's, there's, the NFIP plans, and then there's private, and there's some that cover the basement contents, and going into that whole spiel. And then, from how all the private carriers compete with each other. So it is definitely if you're in personal lines and you're in sorry, Aaron, I know I shouldn't say this, but if you are in a coastal area, I guess if you're not either is okay. You should definitely look into it, because it's another hook into the client, right? So if you have their home and you have their auto and now you get their flood, to Aaron's point, it's just another line of business you can add to the portfolio, and flood generally pays pretty nice commissions.
It does. It's really sticky. And again, I don't want to make this necessarily a commercial for us, but here's the value proposition that I would mention.
Yeah.
And that is, if you're a new agent, again, you have you only have so many resources. You only have so much money you can to put out there in various marketing things. But if you can, and I think a lot of the stuff that you guys like to talk about, which because it's exciting, is I'll say AI and let's say scaling and automation and the technology, right? We can get overwhelmed by it, but agents, in my opinion, don't take enough time to find the easy wins, right? Like they're going after, they want a big. And I get it. Like we can make an argument that you should go after middle market commercial only, because you're going to spend all this time for 10,000 premium versus 1,000. I can tell you that our average flood policy is probably $800 or $900. And you could say, well, okay, that's that. So how are you making it? Well, we now have over like 16,000 policies. So different ways to skin the cat, but in terms of making this simple, and that's why we made this H2 quarter where, I think, Sean, we've sent you, I don't know if you've used it yet.
I'm using it, yeah.
We're giving
written a couple.
Their own unique URL. And I don't know why an agent wouldn't use this all day, every day, because it can sell for you. Again, when you only have limited resources and time, use the embedded insurance, use these tools. You have to, Mike Stromso says you got to meet all the people and all the different places where they want to be. So if you have your own unique URL where your customers can quote flood on their own time, yeah, maybe only 10% will do it. But those people don't want to talk to you anyway, right? They don't want to be. They're smart. They're technologically advanced. They're like, just let me do it. And you could be making sales while you sleep. There's enough products out there that agents should be taking advantage of these tech plays, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. And Aaron, I would, our team has used the H2 Quoter product. And one of the things I know Ryan from my office had a few submissions. I think he just recently wrote a policy. But one of the things, if you are somebody that's new to flood, especially, one of the cool things is like we can message your team like, hey, was this rated properly based off the information I have? Because I know sometimes with the rating of flood, the foundation can be a little tricky to figure out. Is it an elevated crawl space? Is it a basement? Is it all that type of stuff? So I like that we can email your team and just be like, hey, can you look this over to make sure it's rated properly? So just like little things like that's a big deal.
Well, I think if you're talking about working with various MGAs, and maybe we're going into another rabbit hole, but I would say this: the one thing that we've tried to do is we were a scratch agent. We weren't in like some InsurTech bro, right? That just did something else and then heard InsurTech is a cool space to be in. No, we did the grind. I was writing renters policies at 9 o'clock, 30 miles from my house for a $20 commission. I did that. We know what agents need. They need help. So you want to make it as quick as possible,
yeah,
right? Because again, time and energy. So you make it as quick as possible, but with the ability to have someone hold your hand if you need it. And that could go for any line. We're doing flood, but it could really be for any line. In fact, I'll mention we haven't really mentioned it yet, so this might be the first place, but we're going to be having a joint venture with Now Certs Momentum for a trucking program. And we're building it out very similarly where if an agent, again, you should be an expert, but if you need help, we're building the rating so simple, it's going to give you put in the information, it's going to give you a quote right there to save time. On the flood, the H2 Quoter, we're giving 6 and we're adding a 7th carrier in a week. So you get 7 quotes, and that way you can show your customer, look, I've gone to 7 different markets. Because how much time do you have? You can't go to 7 different websites, right?
Tell us, just can you break this down a little more for us? Because like the listeners, it's the first time. I know you and Sean have talked in the past. It's the first time I'm learning about it. So talk to us about how this rater works and specifically how it helps agents.
Yeah, so very simply, like any rating program for flood is very simple. There's about 10 questions. So if you put in the address, Google finds the street. You put in about 10 questions. There's like 4 underwriting questions. Most of them are generally no. Is it under construction? Are you over water? No. It will then provide you with 6 or 7 quotes from different carriers. Most of them are Lloyd's back carriers because they're private. They have better coverage generally than NFIP. We do offer an NFIP option so you can see what that is. And an agent can print all 7 quotes, show their customer, look, I went out and got you these different quotes. And then from there, they literally can click a buying button and with a credit card pay within 3 minutes. So we've made the ability for an agent to scale this very, very quickly. And then within the portal, they can see all their quotes, all their binds.
Yeah.
Again, trying to make it as simple as possible for a product.
Yeah, what's nice about flood, which was like, I won't say it's a learning curve, but it was something I was like, oh, like you don't need a lot of information. You don't need their date of birth. You don't need to know, all this other information. It's literally just, some very basic property details. Like if you have the address and their full name, you can find most of the stuff to rate a flood policy online.
No question. And with the URL we're giving, again, one of the updates we did is, so we give everyone a URL. It's the same quoting engine, the H2 Quoter, but we put the agent's logo and phone number on it. And from there, they can put it in their own automation. So if you use, I don't know, Agency Zoom or Insured Mind or whoever, and you have a sequence, why would you not send, well, one, I know agents are worried about, hey, we sell, we're a multi-line agency. We should probably tell everyone the things we do, which is life and, umbrella. But this is just one of them. You can give them the option to quote it on their own time, which saves you time and energy. And then you can check a box that, hey, we did offer it to you. Mm-hmm.
Do you, Aaron, I'm just curious, do you have any like crazy success stories? Like this guy put it on his site and he sold, he woke up and had 9 flood policies sold.
Yeah. So we're getting a couple, but we've gotten some really good feedback. We had an agent who in North Carolina called me, said I was a health agent, and he saw one of the podcasts that we were on, and so he got the appointment, and in day one he sold a commercial policy. Never didn't know a thing about flood. He just
had to link up.
He sent it to someone, they filled it out, and they wanted to bind it, and he's like, well, now what do I do? And I'm like, well, just get the credit card. Nice. So literally 24 hours from not knowing a thing about flood, he wrote a policy.
That's great.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, Sean, you bring up a good point too about how beneficial something like that and a tool is for scratch agents who don't know what they don't know, but need to know it,
Yeah.
And especially if you're starting out where you're kind of offering all these different lines and not truly an expert on maybe flood, that's a great option for that.
Yeah, for sure. Cause it gets like in my area specifically, there's a lot of different private carriers. And then you have the NFIP product. And to Aaron's point, it is very time consuming to log into this carrier, then the other carrier, then the other carrier, then the other carrier. It's, especially if you're starting out new in flood, try to make it as efficient as possible,
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And again, this is not just, it could be flood, but for your scratch listeners, there are a lot of products like this that they could take advantage of. Because it's tough out there, right? It was tough in 1996. It was tough in 2013. It's tough in 2025, but there's no greater time in the world to be in insurance right now. There just isn't. The barrier to entry, again, I'm going to sound like the old boomer, which I'm not, which is we used to start at Farmers. We had, you guys probably have heard old agents say, we had this carbon copy. We had to drive to someone's house. We had to fill out a form. We had to mail it to a service center. It would take 2-3 weeks for a policy to get sent back. Insanity. With the technology today, with AI, with ChatGPT, with all these things, it's the world is at people's hands for agents today. Scratch agents can, I know there's some struggling out there, but I'm here to tell them that they can not only kick ass. There's a saying that I have or I use a lot back then, my district manager, and that is adversity breaks some men, other men break records. Adversity breaks some women, other women break records. So just when you think, what am I going to do? There's always someone breaking a record somewhere, and there's no reason it can't be any agent today.
Yep. So good. What a great way to end us off. Aaron, thank you so much for being here. We got to wrap up for time. Can you please just give a quick synopsis here of how people can get in touch with you, the rating platform you talked about, or if someone wants to just reach out and pick your brain, what's the best way to do so?
Sure. Happy to talk to anyone, whether it's flood or anything else. Happy to mentor anyone. They can go to the number 2, h2quoter.com. and get appointed. There's a link they can get appointed. Also, for your listeners, if they just mentioned that they heard me on this, we're going to give everyone their first policy. I'm going to give them 25% commission. So first buying, awesome. 25%. Hopefully it's not a giant commercial one. But just to go ahead and try it out. And then I'm on LinkedIn. My email is afarmer@californiafloodinsurance.com. And I really appreciate you guys. I wish this existed when I had started. I think my 25-year journey, it would have been a lot I probably would have been independent a few more years after, but you guys are doing awesome work, man.
Appreciate that.
Super cool. Thanks for saying that. Appreciate you being here and taking the time. Everybody make sure to reach out to Aaron, check him out on that incentive, check out the quarter online. That's another episode of the Scratch Agency podcast. Thanks for joining us. Do us a favor, like the show, share the show, and subscribe. And most importantly, remember to dig down deep, believe in yourself, in your own future. We'll see you next week. Take care.